Hello? Why the question marks? Is there something wrong? Are you confused? There's an ad running. I'm not even sure if you can hear me. Always in a state of confusion. All right. Sup, Ghosty Boy? How we doing? How's everyone this evening? And yes, I'm standing today. That's why it's a little different. My desk doesn't go high enough to actually make this easy. It's actually why I sit. Because I'm actually even kind of slouching, because if I stand up straight. And this desk goes pretty high, but I want it a little bit higher. But anyway, what are we doing tonight? And I can't, it's too unstable too. So how are we doing this evening? Everything okay? Everything going a well? Hopefully not down a well. Oh, nice. Very nice. Oh, man. Allergies are kicking my butt today. It's annoying. I had to take a second dose of allergy meds, which I normally don't like to do. I don't know, it just seems worse. And I'm kind of in a weird mood tonight, so be ready for that. I think the first thing I kind of wanted to yap about tonight was yes, I have gracefully and at times not gracefully been around this planet called Earth. I think actually, Jade, you've, wait, is it your birthday soon? I thought your birthday was in the fall for some reason. Well, I am a butthead. Happy birthday. So your birthday is the 24th. But yeah, happy belated birthday. I feel kind of rude. I did not realize your birthday was. How have I not known that? Have you told me and I forgot? Because that's entirely possible because it's numbers and I lose it. Hell, half the time I have to remember how old I am. Which, if you really want to know how screwball that is I have to do math to remember how old I am. Sorry. I'm not used to like having the camera on when I stand. I normally use a little VTuber. So I'm going to be like moving a lot because that's what I do. And try not to rock the desk while I do it. But yeah, I mean, like calculating because I was born in 79, but for most of the year, the last digit of my age is the last digit of the year. So like right now, it's 2026. I'm 46. But in August, I'll turn 47. So all I have to remember is to add 20 to the current, to the second to the last digit. It sounds stupid, I know, but that's how I do it. My wife looks at me and goes, "Why do you remember it that way?" Who, keep in mind, was born in the same year, so it's just as easy for her to do the same thing I do. But apparently I do it complicated, but it's the only way I can remember it. I don't know. Well, yeah, because you were born in 2001. So you just have to take, depending on what time of the year, either 1 or 2 off of the current year to go, oh, yeah, that's my birth. That's how old I am. But anyway, funnily enough, actually, talking about, numbers. See, Jade knows that me and numbers, I lose it. I forget half the time. Hell, the only reason why I remember mine and my kids' birthdays is because it's June, July, August, and the numbers are 1, 2, 3. I'm 1, the youngest is 2, and the oldest is the 3rd. But it's in July. Hers, Ghoulies is July 3rd. Taters is June 2nd. Mine is August 1st. It's all scrambled, but somehow I get a key, I work at it somehow. Yes, numbers. But oddly enough, it was, one of the first things I wanted to talk about had to deal with numbers and years. And I think Jade might understand this a little bit more than, say, the younger crowd of my people. But I ran across a video where they were talking about 2012 again and how weird 2012 is. Like, ever since 2012, nothing has felt the same. And I would actually go so far as basically ever since 2000, it feels like you get a year older, but you just experience the same years over and over again. And it's not always like the exact same year, not like we're not talking like Groundhog's Day, but more like there's only a finite amount of years in there and they don't equal the 26 years since 2000. Like every 5 years is a cycle to me. Housing crash, financial crash, some war somewhere, but it's like the same repeating short cycle where they used to be longer cycle. But it also feels like nothing's changing. Like music feels the same. Like nothing's really able to advance forward. Like, oh yeah, sure, we have streaming. Sure, we have YouTube. We have these things that have changed. But they didn't change things a lot. Like Jade would understand this. Younger crowds probably may not. Like going from over the air, where you had to have an antenna to pick up your TV, to when you had cable was actually a dynamic shift. Like it was a huge deal to get cable. Like there was a huge benefit. It went from, you having 3 to 4 channels available to you to having, I think the first time I had it, we were like baffled because we had like 25 channels, 30 channels to choose from. I mean, it was a huge amount. And then they just kept adding more and more and more. And now that we have streaming, it's just, there's literally nothing on I want to watch. Or very rarely. Like when Stranger Things was good. That was worth it to me to keep the Netflix subscription. Or like when Netflix first started, you got access to all of these different things. I don't think it's a plateau because tech's still happening. I mean, there is massive advances in tech. But none of these advances are feeling like a dynamic change. Like, I get why people say 2012, but 2012 is really where I think people understand. And I do understand it. And there's supposed to be like a 12-year cycle. So, 2024 should have been like an odd year, a shift. But we didn't really hit that. And even as divisive as politics is now, it really doesn't feel different. I mean, I remember in the 90s, so before your time, Ghost, we had all of these protests and everything. I mean, the Rodney King riot, where there was a big deal about equality and all of this. And it really kind of shook people up and it really woke them up. Like it had a lasting effect. But then after 2008, that effect ended. Actually, I would even say after 2000, because then it just started going back down. But even statistics hold up that 2012 is something happened, because that was literally the start of children's cognitive decline. That's why, Gen Alpha is actually scoring lower on tests. Although I have my theories about that. I think what we score for on tests probably aren't the same thing that they're actually going to need. Let alone, I mean, they deal with so many tests that they just don't care about them. I think that's largely is that there is a lot of ennui, meaning going through the motions, but not really looking forward to anything. Not really. It's not depression, but ennui is just this spot of I don't care. And it's not nihilism, because you're not going for, your end, a dramatic end. It's just, why should I care? It's not I'm dead inside. It's nothing's woke me up. I'm asleep. I'm not dead. And I honestly think that affects more than just the young ones. I think that's affecting everyone. And it's not a plateau of tech, because it's not the tech. It's how we're using it. It's what we're doing it with. I mean, AI should have been this huge shift. Huge shift. Instead, it's a passing fad. Like, even the hate for it is a passing fad. Like, because people are already assessing that, okay, here's where it's used well, here's where it's not. And you can feel that shift happening. But it's not the title shift. Like, it so doesn't matter. And that kind of bothers me. It's almost like it's engineered to be this way. Like, we're actually being managed in some quiet, unseen way that I can't explain. That I just legitimately can't even define. And that's probably the even bigger issue is that we can't define these changes. We can't figure out what's really going on. Why are things this way? I don't need TikTok to tell me that, Jade. Jade, you should know. I mean, how big of a deal was it when our president got a blowjob under the desk? We almost impeached a president over that. Wait, sorry, we did. We didn't kick him out of office, but Hillary Clinton was impeached because he lied on the stand. He lied. Well, now we just expect our politicians to lie, so when they do, we don't really care. And I think that's really bad. I'm not trying to get political here. I'm trying to get to our perception of life, our perception of things. We perceive that the world should be the way it is now, not that we can even make it better. That's that ennui that I'm talking about. Protests? I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but J6 would have looked like kindergarten recess comparatively. We have been beaten down so badly that we can't even rise up anymore. And I don't know what did it. Did we do it to ourselves? Is it technology making it too? Is it the government? Are they putting stuff in our food to make us more passive? And have they just ramped it up since 2012? Well, not just the files, but how many different things have come out that not only would we have protested against, we would have been beating the doors down of our governors, our Congress, our Senate to do something. But now we know that does nothing. Absolutely nothing. And again, this isn't a right versus left. I don't care what side you stand on. I really don't. I care that you stand, and we don't. Like, even these ICE things, it's all a performance. That's the easiest way I can say, is that most of our protesters, most of these people that stand up for what they believe in, it's not real. There's no conviction behind it. It's literally just a performance. Oh, wait, I had to do something other than just stand here? No. Actually do something that's going to mean something. And I'm not talking an insurrection or anything like that. I'm talking like actually go to your public office of your public official and protest there. Not out in the streets. Do something that's actually going to do something. And we don't. And I think that's largely has to do with whatever happened after 2012. That's my feeling. That it's not some, the Matrix, or we shifted to a different timeline. No, I think it's just, if you look at statistics, the world went to shit. I actually double checked these statistics, like self-deletion rates skyrocketed. Cognitive decline started going. Pedestrian deaths, which were at an all-time low in 2010, doubled to tripled by 2012. Pedestrian deaths, people walking. It was funny to see the graph because you had like 8,000 over here. I think it was per capita. It dropped all the way down to 4,000 or less. Now in 2022, 2023, where the graph ended, it was back up to 8,000. So you had this just big V. It was a big M. And that's just pedestrian deaths. There was literally something happened. And welcome in, Infinite. Some kind of, it's also where the start of Gen Z, Gen Alpha cognitive decline started, where testing started going down. And see, I think it has more to do that we really royally screwed up our schools, because I think that's where they were really pushing hard the Common Core, which is not common and it's not very core. So I don't really understand what Common Core even means. But it's where they started doing the statewide testing. And it's been proven in study after study after study, proven that the current way we do our education system is actually making people dumber. And not just dumber as in, oh, hey, they're cattle, they're easier controlled. No, it's even worse. They're dumb and they're hard to control. At least in the 80s, we had our BF Skinner boxes of classrooms where at least the kids were controllable to a certain degree. Now we can't even control them. We've gotten to the point where we don't even care if they score well. We just keep passing them on the next line. The teacher after will get it. Teacher after will get it. Behavioral psychology. It's called a Skinner box. You ever see the The psychological tests where you have like a rat in a box and it's got to push the button to get a treat, or it's got to do this to get a treat, you modify the behavior with a reward. That's how schools were designed. Kids got to modify their behavior because they got a good score. What do you think magazine sales were all about? Or whatever you're selling, chocolate, whatever. I got to quit putting my hands on the desk because I keep shaking the camera. Sorry. I'm not trying to give anybody motion sickness. Ghost and Raven did enough of that tonight. It's probably why I find smartphones so gave people motion sickness. They were playing, and hello, Ninetales. They were playing Resident Evil 5, and the sensitivity to movement was super high, and so they were like moving it all over the place. I actually had to look away from the screen because it was just bugging me. Not because I get motion sick, but it was just like the bad guy voice. Wesker. Hey, Chris. We have 7 minutes. I can't do a good Wesker, I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, hey, that's a little bit better. Yes, Chris, we have 7 minutes. It's not perfect. I'm not saying it is. Oh, yeah. Yeah, which is why it was so sad that Ninetales showed up right after the bulk of the really hilarity of the Wesker voice. But oh yeah, it was hilarious. Yeah, it was pretty good. But I think a lot of okay, let me expand on the whole Skinner box thing. BF Skinner. It's actually where Principal Skinner got his name from Simpsons. So to give you a little understanding of how pervasive this was. So schoolrooms used to be one-room schoolhouses, and it was basically voluntary for parents to send their kids. There wasn't really a push to get kids in school because, they didn't really need to learn much from school because they were learning it from their parents on the farm because that's what they were going to do. They were going to take over the farm. So it wasn't necessary. Yep, there you go. Yeah. And welcome in, Andy. So when we did this shift into more industrial way of life, when we did the Industrial Revolution, it was starting to cycle up around, I think it was just after World War I and before World War II is where we were starting to cycle that up, where we're getting people off the farm and teaching them how to work in manufactories. And we found that child labor at the rate we were using them in the Depression was really bad. Not just bad for the people, but you'd run out of workers because they didn't really have good safety protocol. So you end up with these mass schools that people don't realize haven't even been around that long. These major schools that we think of, what, 2 generations? It's only about 100 years from now. Or from now to 100 years back. Message. It happens. Yeah, between the 40s and 50s is when we really had the big push. It was part of the New Deal when we were building all of this, the US and shifting it over and all of that crap that was done. Which some of it was mistakes, some of it was good. But wait a minute. I actually, oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, okay, to give you an idea, is that also this expansion of schools was westward. It started in the east and moved west. So my parents, um, uh, well, that's easy. She was born. What is that? The 40s? Born in the 40s? Yeah, born in the 40s ish. My parents were born in the 50s, early 50s. My dad was born in 51. No, my mom was born in 51. My dad was born in 52. My grandpa was born in 1910, 1912. Because he was in his 40s when he had my dad. My dad was one of the younger. Yeah, see, that sounds about right. Well, my grandpa was I'm not sure how far my grandpa got in school. I know my yes. Yeah, my grandparents were the silent generation on both sides. I know my grandpa Fred, he was quite a bit older than, and I'm trying to remember, because I know he was raised by Depression era parents, and he was a ranch hand his whole life. My mom did schooling by kerosene light because they lived in the backwoods of Idaho. Same with my dad. My dad was always late going into school in the year. You know, he hardly ever showed up at fall. It was always partial way in. And he always left early because my grandpa ran an outfit and guide business in Idaho. So hunting and fishing seasons, my dad was part of the job. Right? Honestly, not as bad as they want you to believe, Infinite. Especially if, okay, now if you're going with like, and what I mean by kerosene light, I'm not talking like a hurricane lamp. Yeah, 4 or 5 people. That was actually really common because schools also weren't so big. They were more cut up. See, that's another part of what I was going to talk about when it comes to schooling, is that we've made districts so big so that people don't realize how many students actually leave. We still have a 20 to 30% dropout rate in school, but 20 to 30% in a classroom of, you know, or a class size of 400 doesn't seem like that much. It's literally kids that get lost in the shuffle. I mean, when you're talking about a 40-person classroom to 45, I mean, I'm a high school dropout. I mean, I've never hidden that fact. I left school. I just walked away. Never even formally left. I just walked away. I was bored. I remember going back and visiting some of my friends at school, and the campus security guy's like, "Oh, they finally caught you." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" "Well, yeah, you've been truant this whole year." It's like, bruh, I already got my GED. I'm out of here. "Oh, well, you're always on the list here." And I'm like, that's not my problem that the school can't keep up their grade or their paperwork. I mean, the guy was nice. I mean, yes, the records. It's not my fault they can't keep up their records. But I don't know, you know, I mean, we've made schools so big that literally we can't fund everything. Well, it's a lot easier to slip through the cracks when you used to have, 2 to 3 high schools per city, not one high school per city. I mean, I was in a town of 30,000 people, the whole town, 30,000. We had one high school that was poorly funded. I was constantly correcting the teachers. So I had a lot of friends in school. No, I didn't. Let's just get that out of the way. I did not have a lot of friends. I think I had 2. And they weren't even close friends. Hell, I think my best friend in high school was the local hobby shop owner. Which says a lot. And mainly it was because I was about his son's age. His son was a little bit older because his son went off to the military, but had died in a training accident. But I mean, I just went over, hung out when I wasn't working. And that was largely what I did, is I just went to work. I mean, I've been working all the way through junior high. I'm not joking when I say I worked from the time I was 12 to, I think, 28 without a vacation. Without any real time off. Other than your normal 2 days off. I was so burnt. And that included me going into the Merchant Marine. I mean, Merchant Marine was the only time I really had off. So about 26. Sorry, not 28. I did get some time off with the Merchant Marine. Well, no, because I also, when I was off work there, I was working for a ventilation duct cleaning company. So, okay, never mind. Not too much work off there. Delayed. See, it's even more delayed. See, Twitch is just being weird. But yeah, I mean, we made schools so big to save money when it's not saving any money. I mean, the only way it's actually saving money is that we have fewer students to go through, so they don't have to deal with as many students, which I think is also kind of engineered. It keeps for lack of a better term, a servant class around. People that are chronically working minimum wage jobs that don't really see that they will ever have a life higher than that. I think it's one of the reasons why YouTube and Twitch are going the way they're going, because it's giving college dropouts. I mean, how many Twitch and YouTube stars are college dropouts? Because it just didn't work for them. Not only that, I mean, school's nothing more than free daycare. Nice. I know mine can handle a couple of them at least. I don't know how many. I've never had more than 2 hooked up at once. My keyboard and my headphone. But, well, actually, no, I haven't even done that on this phone, so I don't know. But school is so messed up. And I mean, even at the college level. I mean, and I know a few of you are in college. More props to you. But I don't know how much your degree is going to be worth anything by the time you get out. And I hope you're not going with a fad. Oh, well, okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Sorry. Well, okay, Andy, I also remember when, Bluetooth doesn't have or wasn't there. Mm-hmm. I remember when you had to have a little widget to connect things. No worries on your degree, Infinite? Yeah, see, I'm so used to cords. To this day, I don't like over-the-air connections. I mean, even these are connected. I don't like Wi-Fi connections. And I'm not saying the schooling is bad. Understand. But I think most people should know that schooling, your teacher is not teaching you everything. Whatever level of school you're in, whether it's junior high all the way up. Yes. They can, but you also have to, it's why you don't leave your device discoverability on. You just do it when you're hooking up a new device, and then as soon as the new device is hooked up, turn that device discoverability off. Because that gives it an open way for people to hack. Find out your basically hook up, but also they have a lot more security than they used to in Bluetooth. Because now you have to be able to input the code. That whatever, like my headphones told me a code and I had to hit that code on my phone before they would pair properly. Most Bluetooth devices now have two-factor authentication. Cheaper devices don't, so be wary. And I don't know, I always try to be very cognizant of what I'm putting and connecting to my devices. Like I will never own an Apple product and connect it to my phone. You want to talk about data insecurity? Apple is just sucking it all up. But that goes the same with pretty much, it's why I stopped using Samsung, because of its data insecurity. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. You want to know how, okay, so I went through 5 different high schools in 3 years. That's probably one of the major factors of dropping out. If I had known at the time when I registered for Southern California high school, because I was taking all these hard courses, they're called college preparatory or advanced preparatory, CP or AP, depending on what school system I was in. In junior high, I was taking advanced placement classes in junior high. By the time I did my freshman year in high school, and then went down to Southern California, if I had known when I registered for classes that in my sophomore year I could have graduated high school, that had a major factor in me just going, what am I here for then? I already had all the credits. And when Washington State, because I moved back up, told me that I had to go 2 more years beyond my senior year because of required classes. And these weren't like, oh, you didn't do enough math, or you didn't do your English or something. It was just very specific Washington State history that you had to take one class after the other. And they were telling me that, sorry, it was 1 more year after my senior year. I just didn't re-register. I'm just like, no, I'm done. I'm 18, I can walk away. Because I would have been 18 my senior year. So I just walked away. They couldn't stop me. And I mean, even if my parents had wanted to, they couldn't stop me. And really knowing that in California, right, a health class. Mine was like literally Washington State history. It's a state requirement. I've already taken Nevada State history. I've taken California State history. I don't really need Washington State history. And one of them was because I moved around in junior high and because I didn't have it. Well, again, that's bullshit, Andy. It's so frustrating. it's so frustrating how school and all this bureaucracy that means, same, Andy, nothing. You know, I mean, I was told that I was ADHD as well, Andy. Except for I knew enough about ADHD to know that I didn't have it bad enough to be on medication. I could tell you that right now because caffeine works. Not only that, but I was making straight A's in school. So why would I want to go medicated? I mean, 5 high schools, 3 years, and I pulled a 3.986 GPA. When I dropped out, and if I had kept going the way I was going, probably. If I had kept going the way I was going, caffeine works as a good medication for ADHD. The only problem is you have to have a constant supply. And if you're like my wife, it should make you tired, or at least feel normal. Whereas, okay, yeah, see, there you go. Yeah, see, I was pulling a 3.986. If I had stayed my senior year and managed to keep my grades the same, I would have been valedictorian. If I had just maintained my grades. Not even done any better, not even tried harder, which would have been really easy for me to do. I literally phoned in my high school education. Well, not literally, but so, you know, that time in between classes, I would ask somebody, you know, what homework was for my next class. Okay, I'd go to that class, sit down, boom, done. Yeah, math was my only C. But if I was allowed to do math on my own terms, nice. My college was up and down. Because I had to take math classes, and advanced math is not something I'm very good at. I don't like math, but every other class, I mean, one of the most advanced classes on campus that I could take was at a university level, would have been a 3 to 400. Oh yeah, and that is absolutely great, Jade. Be very proud of that. Was called Myth, Ritual, and Magic. And it was supposed to be, like I said, a 3 to 400 level sociology class. And it was basically talking about how and why civilizations come up with myths and what those myths really affect, and, you know, the different stages of mythology and all of that. Well, I hadn't taken any of the prereq classes, nothing. But I went to the professor, and nice. I went to the professor and talked to him about taking his class. Now, Greg von Alstein was a Oxford educated sociologist. So, I mean, he had degrees. He had all of these, you know, this stuff. And I sat there and I talked with him for about an hour during his office time, and basically convinced him to let me take the class, because I understood what sociology was, even though I had never taken a class. Now, this is the hardest class on course, or on campus, widely, you know, said to be the hardest class. I never bought the book. I took barely any notes. I think I had 20 pages of notes for, you know, the whole of the course, which, I mean, put it in perspective, there were people with 3-ring binders that were full. So there was a lot of note taking. And I legitimately got the second highest score in the class. Now, the highest score was my buddy. My buddy got a 3.85. I got a 3.8. 2 months later, after we were done with the class, I started grilling my buddy on how much they remembered. They couldn't remember much of anything. I still remember various things about myth, ritual, and magic. You know, what in sociology terms a liminal period means. Which, I mean, I have that kind of memory, which is why I can get away with doing stuff like that, which is why I can get away with doing a talk time like this, talk for 2 hours without even looking at a reference. I mean, that's my special skill, is the memory. Which, taking me back to 2012, I don't remember much about 2012. I remember leading up to 2012, everybody freaking out that it was the end of the world. But that was about it. That's all, and then I think it, memory starts coming back about 2014. 2012 to 2014? No. But also, that's not strange for me to a certain degree. Because I don't remember most of my childhood. Not until about 91, 92. Which takes me to the 1988. Yeah, okay. No, and that makes sense. Because you're associating, it's how you key your memory. You're using drawing to key your memory, Andy. That's how it works. You're doing an association. So say you're listening to the professor talk, in a lecture, and you're sitting there drawing out a cat. All you would really need to remember is the cat when you go to take that test, because that'll key your memory for everything you heard. So you're very much a visual person. That's how your memory works. It's very visual. Mine's auditory. It's why when I'm like reading something, I'll sit here and read something in my mind, I'm speaking the words to myself. And I call, I have what I call a phonographic memory. I've literally rewound conversations. Oh, Andy, I think we have a lot in common, because in junior high, I used to be talking to the kids around me, and the the teacher, thinking they caught me on doing something wrong or not paying attention, would ask me the question, do the typical teacher, like, oh, I got this one. I can get them in trouble, make them feel stupid. Maybe they'll pay attention. They would ask me a question. I would turn around, answer the question, turn back around and start talking with my buddy. Yeah, that was a quick way to get detention, because I was distracting the other students. So I learned to just sit in the back and not do anything, which is probably why I didn't have many friends. I'd be sitting there reading a book while the teacher's lecturing, and I would be able to take the tests, everything perfectly fine. And that's just the way I worked. It's the way I still work. Which, nice. Well, me? Yeah. I was talking too much and I didn't drink enough, so my throat was dry. I had been suppressing the cough to finish what I was saying and waited too long. Yes, hydrate. There, you happy? I just finished off my soda. Now I finished off a bottle of water. But yeah, I mean, I really think that the degradation in school. Oh wow. Oh. See, one, she wasn't supposed to do that because she can get in a lot of trouble for having students over to her house, especially in something as compromising as a pool party. Now, in the 80s, you could get away with that, but not in the 90s or the early 2000s. See, and I think that's another, you know what? I'm going to go take a quick break because that's going to be a segue into the next half of what I kind of want to talk about of why everything feels the same. So I know it's a little early, but I'm going to take a break a little early because I know what I'm going to get into the next is going to be a lot bigger. So I'll be right back. See you in 5. Stretch, drink, use the restroom, whatever you need to do. And I'm back. So, where was I? Oh, yes. That's where I was. Miss Bice. Yeah, see, I had a lot of teachers that bullied me too. I'll get to that I'll get to what I was going to talk about it. No, I'm still okay. I don't know why I'm wearing the headphones. Not like I'm listening to anything. So, I had teachers that would bully me too, but it never worked. Because what were they going to do? Get me in trouble? Okay. I'll take detention. I'll take even a suspension. Not that they ever gave me one because I never did anything bad enough for one. But one, I think we teach teachers to be teachers badly. We also, how do I put this? We pushed parenting off of parents onto the school, onto the legal system. And I don't know how to describe. Oh, see, the one school I went to, for the short time that one of my siblings went to, the teacher literally saw the name before he called out my name and said, "Oh God, not again." And that just happens. Like, yeah. The funny thing is that the teacher actually once got to know me. It was like, "Wow, you're nothing like your sibling." I'm like, "Nope." In fact, probably the best thing my dad ever heard was, "Wow, he's nothing like you." Don't worry, I felt the same way. That it was probably like, "Oh, good." Oh, yeah. I mean, I had teachers like that where I enjoyed the subject, but I didn't enjoy the teacher. I mean, I enjoyed English. Absolutely hated one of the English professors I had. I mean, one, her actual major was graphic design. And because she failed out of that in the business world, she fell back on her minor in English studies and somehow ended up being the head of the English department, which she was also a failed poet because she was really into the 90s era of emo dump poetry, where it's, oh, it doesn't have to have a rhyming scheme. It doesn't have to have that. Like, it didn't have to follow any patterns. So it was just stream of consciousness. Brown noser Jade. Oh. Yeah, teacher's pet. I got called the teacher's pet sometimes too. When they did, the teachers would laugh because, no, I wasn't. Because I was constantly correcting the teachers. I only had one teacher that actually didn't mind being corrected. He had really bad dyslexia. But we've pushed off parenting onto everybody else but the parents themselves. Oh, that could be really good or really bad, Andy. Sorry, I get really fidgety when I stand. Sorry. I know it's probably watching me go like this. Do a little dance. I'll hit the mic. But we don't make parents be parents. In fact, I remember like the real big transition in the early 2000s when parents became afraid to parent their child. Like, there was this rash. "What's up, Green Jeans?" in the YouTube chatting. "Hope you're having a good night, buddy." But we don't allow parents to be parents. And parents have gotten so used to not having to parent No, fun. I think Greenie is not able to go on to Twitch right now. Yes, Greenie is in YouTube land. I think Greenie is actually technically at work, so YouTube's easier to use from there than Twitch, I guess. I really don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is that we don't allow parents to be parents. I mean, think about all of this stuff about, oh, digital ID for the kids. One, I was the jerk parent. My kids hated me from the time they were about 10 to 13. Like I was the tyrant. Not because I wanted to be, but because I absolutely refused to allow them to go online and get a social media account or anything like that. Because the rules on the social media is you had to be at least 13. So I absolutely refused to let them have it. And I'm sure all your friends have it. That's fine. And that's where I coined the term with my kids. Like, look, I'd rather be the villain in your life than be the hero that lets you do bad things. Like, that's not being a hero. That's being a villain. A hero is somebody you have to live up to. A villain is somebody that lets you do whatever you want and be whatever you want. No matter how bad it is for you. A hero will encourage you to do things that you're good at. I didn't start social media until I was at least in my 20s. Because it wasn't around before then? Not really. I mean, sure, I went on bulletin board systems and stuff. I mean, I dealt with the net. But that was not social media. I don't think I joined MySpace until 2001, 2002, 0102. Maybe later, I don't remember. I barely ever used it. I mean, I still don't understand the point of social media. I don't. Facebook is still 1,000 people screaming in a room and nobody listening. That's the same thing with Jitter. Sorry, I combine X and Twitter to Jitter. Think of any social media. How often do people actually communicate? And how many times is it just somebody posting? Okay, well, I mean, and that's fine. I mean, see, that's Discord to me. Discord is good social media. I know it has a bad name. I get it. That's fine. But for me, Discord works. That's why I only started using it like 2 years ago. And I only started I started using it before that because it was me and my friends. And that's how we kind of did the whole gaming online thing. Right. But I don't use Instagram. I don't use TikTok. I don't use Facebook. And largely it's because they are full of predators of one stripe or another. I mean, scams come through. Sessions, all the sessions. Yes. All the sessions of whatever we were playing at the time. I mean, shoot, to give you how long I've been actually online gaming with people. Hey, Jade, didn't we start out on Skype gaming? Isn't that what we first? Yeah, I was going to say, like freaking Skype. Who uses Skype anymore? Is it even still around? I mean, and here's a random question. How the frack did Zoom beat Skype? Right? We went Discord, never went back because Discord's so much easier to use. But how did Zoom beat Skype? Skype's been there since 97, 98. Amino groups? Discord? Or are you talking about guy online? Okay. What's an amino group? I mean, aminos are, proteins. Oh, yeah, acids, amino acids. I still don't know what that is. Aminoni? Is that one of those anime happy things? Like groups? I'm really mostly curious. I mean, oh my God, I used to have a GeoCities account with a bunch of other writers. We were doing a group world writing, which was fun. And then, some of them turned it into NSFW fiction and I stepped away. Oh, okay. There is a lot of internet lore that I missed because I was either on ship, so I was completely disconnected from the world. Oh, okay. Or I was homeschooling my kids, and because they weren't going on social media, I did. Lead by example. Because that's one thing my parents never did. And I refuse to be that kind of parent. I will lead by example. If I'm going to tell my kids to get off the computer only have so much time online and stuff like that, I force myself to do it. Art communities in the 2010s? Oh, okay. So I hate to tell you this, but so you're the reason why art accelerated in AI. Because that's where they were scraping most of their data, was from the 2010s to the 2018s. They were scraping the art communities because all of those were free sites, and you had no privacy. I mean, it's also why I won't use Facebook, because you don't own the pictures once you put them up there. Let alone any of your writing, whatever you're doing, you don't own it anymore. Right. See, and that's the thing that I really wish the really vehement hating art people about AI. It's like, you might hate it, but you trained it. You put it up on not Shutterfly. What's that one where everybody posts their images? Imgur. Tumblr, Reddit. Wherever you put your stuff, you think Reddit made money? No, you were the product. LiveJournal. I mean, oh my God, I had a LiveJournal. I know. Andy, I'm not saying that you're wrong for what you were doing. But you got to understand that if something is free, you're the one that's being bought.
It wants your soup. It wants your soup.
I mean, that's literally what they're doing. And if it's free, they're buying you. It took me a long time to realize that. So, we have to take responsibility for our actions, even if we didn't know at the time. I mean, and I'm not trying to call anybody out for that. I'm not trying to say, oh, you dumbass, you shouldn't. The only problem is that the AI poison overlays, the AI is just going to learn how to ignore them. I mean, you're not going to win the battle. I'm sorry to say. I mean, AI is going to defeat itself. Speaking of that, I mean, anybody here that Sora is now shutting down? Like ChatGPT, OpenAI can't afford to keep Sora going? Yeah. Well, AI bubble is bursting. See, that's what they get for making something for spectacle rather than something for use. See, AI has its use, but they trained it to be a spectacle, which is why it was a flash in the pan fad that's going to burn out, other than a few people that actually really paid attention on how to use it. That's the important part. That's why I kept trying to tell people, learn to use it as a tool. Learn to use it as a tool. Like if I want a reference image for drawing, I just generate an image, because if art trained AI, I might as well use AI to train my art, to train me as a better artist. So if I need a reference image, generate it, draw it. It's a way to accelerate. AI is just going to make you more of what you already are. If you're lazy, you're going to generate slop. If you put work and effort into it, you're going to generate something that's more important. The background behind me, you see how it's laid out. I generated that with AI. But you notice that Neon Bard, Neon Room, Neon Boss, my 3 YouTube channels are referenced in the image. I told it to do that. Learning how to use AI, you shouldn't just hate it because it exists. You should learn to use it as a tool. It's something that can be very beneficial to you. And I know people hate that, but it's how we've been learning since the get-go. Our brains are the best AI scraper there is. Ever since we started writing on tablets, it was a way to pass down knowledge from one person to the next. And going back to the school system, I wonder why school systems have failed so miserably. Because they're not trying to pass down knowledge. They're trying to pass down behaviors. They don't really care about the knowledge. They want good little drones that'll exist in a consumer environment, that'll go to work back and forth and not care about what's really going on. That's what schools are designed to do. You are supposed to follow an authoritarian no matter how right or wrong they are. That is school system. I hate to tell everybody that, but that's what it is. We're all to blame for how this got here. Yeah, good little worker bees. That's what schools have been from the beginning. They used to be about learning, but that went away about the 60s. Yeah, ants, drones, worker bees. Basically, they're treating us like codes. They're inputting and training our own AI code to follow the orders. And look at IRL streamers. Most of them are young. Most of them do it for spectacle. And most people watch it because they forget that that's a real person. That's not fiction happening. That is a real life thing happening. And there's nothing we can really do about it. Until we set up laws and actually, basically, I think we should ban most IRL streaming. If you're in a car, no streaming whatsoever. That should be completely banned, whether you're responding to chat or not. You're walking around a mall in a public space, banned, because you can't control who you're viewing. Who's being on your stream. Confronting people in real life who haven't been given you permission. Especially since they don't know what's really going on. We live in such a culture that we're so used to cameras being everywhere that to us, it's okay that a streamer is streaming in the mall and watching, whoever the hell go by. But when we used to do broadcast TV, and say, you've been caught on candid camera, which is probably before the vast majority of your guys' time, the people had to sign a release to be seen on that, to get their 15 minutes of fame. They had to allow the production company to put their face on the up. Right. Which is fine. Those people signed a release. But then you go, you fast forward to Impractical Jokers, and how many people did they show on camera? I know they didn't get releases from every single one of them. Sure, they probably got releases from the main targets, the normal people that came up to the counter or something like that. But also most likely it was scripted television, just like everything else. They made it look like it was improv, but I seriously doubt it. Reality TV is anything but reality. There was nothing real about it. It's all cut. We have Jackass movies. If you don't think, sure, in the initial phases of the Jackass TV show, I guarantee you they were hurting each other. But do you honestly think the movies, there wasn't controls? If it wasn't, those guys would be so broke. They're already pretty broken, but they'd be worse than they are. I'll just tell you that. But, and I never got into the Jackass stuff. I never got into the stuff where these guys are hurting themselves for fame. If anything, Jackass was the first lolcows. We were laughing at them. We didn't want to be them. If that makes any sense. And that's the thing is that's what I think a lot of these IRL streamers don't realize. People are watching you because you're a lolcow. Because you're the one they're laughing at. Not the people you're doing stuff to. It's you. You are a joke. That is what you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. You're the joke. Asmongold, Hassan. Yeah, Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, Beavis and Butthead was great. I love Beavis and Butthead. I don't have a problem with Nux. Nux is fine other than Nux. Yeah, he's kind of I haven't watched him in a while. Nux is Nux. That's the problem. But again, one, we don't even know how old he is. Nux could be 16, I guess he's been on the internet for 5-6 years now. You hear Hassan and you think Nux? That's an odd association. But yeah, Hassan's a piece of shit. But so's Asmongold. And I'm sorry to say it, but... Oh, okay. Well, I don't really know. And I don't mean in they're personally, these guys are just bad people. But they're literally using each other. Most of their audience doesn't even understand that the only reason why Hassan and Asmon are as popular as they are is because they butt heads. They are using that friction to gain followers. That's it. That's why they have this feud. You don't think that on the back end, they don't understand this? Well, let's see. Hassan shocked his dog. He was paid to go to China by the China. Yeah, it's the weirdest clout chasing because that's all it is. I watched more Pegasus. That's the only reason why I know pretty much anything about Asmongold. Yeah, he doxed someone on stream. Okay. He doxed someone on stream. He threatened, I don't know how many people. I don't know how Twitch keeps him on. Other than he drives content. What, he has 60, 70,000 people watching him all at once? Yeah, right. I'm not stupid. Yeah, it wasn't even the right person. That was the even funnier part. Oh yeah, that's right. He just went to Cuba and got fried for staying at a 5-star hotel while the rest of the friggin' country is out of power. You know, he's a communist, socialist, you know, it's like, oh yeah, these guys are great, you know, and yet he's living like the bigwigs, like the oligarchs. Like Hassan is so much a hypocrite, it's not even funny. At least Asmongold, from what I've seen, like he can have some really bad takes, really bad, but at least he owns up to it. Like at least that, you know, is his real opinion, I guess. But I'm not even sure of that. Like I said, I watch more Pegasus. It's the only reason why I know anything about it. Well, don't even get me started on Sniper Wolf. Friggin', you know, I mean, come on. Especially when it was Jack's film. The guy had never hurt anybody other than he just called her out for friggin' being an absolute fake bish. I mean, really. I mean, Pegasus is just funny. Yeah, I mean, I don't really give two rips about all of that stuff. And yes, Jack was right. I mean, that the proof was all there. And in the divorce of Sniper Wolf, that was even funny. But yeah, I mean, I watch Pegasus because his takes are funny. But I also think he's kind of an Asmund Glazer, even though he says he's not. Jack's films, yeah. As you should. But I mean, just the very fact of people like Sniper Wolf, people like Hassan can gain followings because they are who they are. Fake ass people. Like, I don't understand it. I mean, I don't understand the cognitive dissonance with Hassan talking about being a socialist and communist and yet buying Gucci bag. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Completely stole Naziland's whole thing. Like, you could actually see the proof. And honestly, I think it probably saved Aziland. Gonna be honest. Probably saved Aziland from being probably going to be an insufferable person. But it's, I know it's almost hypocritical for me to be stand up here and talk about streaming as if it's a terrible thing. But I'm just talking about literally not even 1% of the people that do it. They're just the most popular. And the only reason why they're popular is because they're controversial. Because they're not being authentic selves. I mean, even Asmongold's not being as authentic. You know, yeah, sure. You know, yeah, he's relatable because he still lives in the attic. He still, you know, lives in the same house and all of this. And he doesn't really do much with his money until you find out on the back end. You know, I mean, I want to say he's a major investor in Starforge Systems. He's a major investor in so much else. Like, he actually makes his money work for him because he just doesn't really care. See, and that's the reason why Asmongold can say whatever he says is because, well, he's a nihilist. He just doesn't care. I mean, the whole reason why he's still alive is because he was playing WoW and completely forgot about his plans to, you know, take himself out. Which, I mean, I'm glad he didn't. When you do it too much. What, stream? Yeah, humoristic nihilist. I mean, and that's really what Asmund is. I mean, he's the only reason why he's so popular is because Trump's in office. Like, legitimately. Because there's so much, you know, back and forth with Trump and all of this stuff. That's literally it. You know, and he's got people that are basically riding the same grip. When, you know, they're just trying to own the libs, but even though most of them, if you actually understand most of their politics, they're fairly liberal themselves. You know, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that most of these people that, you know, Hassan and his people, Twitch streamer, small channel, literally be on Twitch for 20 hours with no progress. Well, yeah, true. But see, that's also why I limit my time. I'm not on all the time. I have a life outside of this. This isn't my life. I understand that to be my authentic self, I have to do this at a limited time. You know, that's why I try to keep it around 2 hours at a time. My brain needs the break. I know that you guys would probably like it if I ran longer. But I also know that if I don't keep it in its place, it's going to become too much. Oh, so you're saying you don't want to see more of me, Andy? All right, fine. See you guys later. I mean, and sure, I might have, you know, someday do like, you know, a 12-hour stream or something like that. Oh, come on. You know, I know what you were meaning. I was joking.
It wants your soup.
Oh, you're just here for the soup. Got it. I love this one.
You've been hit by you.
Like, absolutely, this is one of my
truck.
I did so much to try and time that just right. I love that one. So much fun. But streaming is, like, for me, it's an escape. Do I ever think it's ever going to become a career? I don't know. It's something I do for fun. You know, if I could ever make a little, you know, well, I do make a little bit of money off of it, so I'm happy. If I could ever make enough to, I don't know, pay some bills, but not, you know, if it someday pays for the internet per month, that would be wonderful. You know, right now it takes, you know, 2 months to pay for 1 month of my internet, which not bad. You know, but I'm never going to be like a goofy streamer like Ghost. I'm just not that way. You know, I'm way too confident. I know my limits a lot more than Ghost does. And that's by no means a dig at Ghost. Ghost is a great streamer. I think if he continues doing what he's doing, he's going to go far. A lot farther than I will. I'm too abrasive. Most people just don't click with me. You know, I mean, all my life, that's the way it's been. People have a 50-50 chance. They either like me or they hate me. Very few people are like, he's okay. You know, and that's just something that I've literally lived with my whole life. Too many people don't understand that half the time I play devil's advocate. But in reality, well, right. Hey, I'm not looking for compliments. I realize that's how it sounds, but I appreciate it infinite. I'm just saying that I'm aware of my shortcomings. I'm also aware that I'm not going to change them. I know who I am, and that's who I am. If people don't like it, tough. You know, I play devil's advocate. I might say something that's, you know, controversial, you know, but what I'm trying to do is get people to think about why they believe what they believe. I want people to understand, you know, I'm not trying to convince you that I'm right. I'm trying to convince you to convince yourself that you're right, to be confident in your decisions. And if you are able to start questioning your decisions because of what I'm saying, maybe you don't adhere to what you think you do. And maybe you need to take a long, hard look at who you are and why you think about why, you know, because, and the reason why I come to this is because I realized after my dad died, there was a whole lot of stuff that I was holding on to because of him. And we didn't get along, but he's who taught me. So there was a whole lot of stuff sitting over here that I didn't even realize was there until I didn't have to worry about it anymore. Until I didn't have to worry about what would my dad think. And I guarantee you, a ton of you do the same thing. I guarantee you wouldn't even realize it until, realize it like I did. Even though I knew me and my dad didn't get along. Right. I mean, I love my mom, but I also act differently around her. Most of that now is out of respect, and I'm very conscious of what I'm doing. Because I don't think she could really handle who I really am. And that's a hard thing to understand, is that I am true neutral. Yep. I went no contact for many months. Right. But Andy, I'm not talking about that. And same with you, Infinite. I'm not talking about, no contact. I'm talking about things that you didn't even realize. So here's the thing. I was told my whole life. Ooh, yeah, see? I was told my whole life I was a lazy SOB. Now, couple that with everything I've told you guys. I started working when I was 12, and most of that was self-started. I mowed lawns on weekends and afternoons while I was in school. Got so good at it that I had to hire friends to keep up with the demand. While in junior high, I had to, or I didn't have to, but I did. I used some of my allowance to start buying stuff to sell at school, which you can't do anymore, which I think is complete bullshit. But I had soda pop, I had all sorts of stuff. And a lot of it was I self-created. See, that's why I don't understand Facebook. If you have to lie in a public forum, why are you using it? And I realized, due to family. It's how family stays in touch. Well, I remember a time when family didn't. 2 or 3 months out of the year, you're talking to them. And every 2 to 3 months, every 2 to 3 months, you're talking to your family, your extended family, stuff like that. Lies by omission, Jade. We're engineering ourselves to not be ourselves. That's part of that. That's what social media is really doing, is teaching us not to be who we want to be, who we really are. Why do we think we all feel so bland? We're too afraid of putting ourselves out there. And so it starts bleeding over into our real life. We're too afraid to be who we really are because, well, what if somebody's recording me? I might end up being the next lolcow or viral meme. So what? People move on. They always do. You might be a meme for a minute, but a legend for a lifetime. Think about, how many memes faces, were part of these huge memes, like the girl in front of the fire, I don't even remember what they call it, but the smiling guy with the braces. But now they're legends. For a short time, yeah, they probably couldn't show their face very, very far. But now they're legends. Bad Luck Brian, is that what that was called? Okay. I don't remember. I'm just saying that we think in the short term. But we're training ourselves not to be authentic. Think about it. YouTube started as, broadcast yourself. Remember, go back to Markiplier's early stuff. Go back to Jacksepticeye's early stuff, where they were really them. Now it's You really like corn. Ah, okay. Yes, I like corn. Yes. All I'm saying is that social media trains us to hide ourselves. I mean, how many people take pictures for Instagram and like 50 million of them, and then all the filters and whatnot that they do to it to make it look perfect? You know, to take the one picture that's good and then make it perfect. I mean, hell, that's the Kardashians' brand. And we're all trying to mimic. Yes, I like corn as a great meme. Same with I like turtles. I mean, I'm just saying that we train ourselves not to be authentic. We train ourselves to we're literally being domesticated by the elites. We are their reality TV. I don't even know how else to put it. I mean, really, what else can I say? I mean, Jeff Bezos runs Twitch offhandedly, but he does. Mark Zuckerberg runs Facebook. You know, you don't think that they find some of the funniest people that they enjoy and then up their broadcast? Well, Andy, why are you... Okay, here's my thing. Why do we care what strangers think? Why do we care? Why do we care if some clout goblin online hates us, wants to bully us? Like, I mean, oh, I see what you mean. Sorry, Jade. I just got what you were talking about. I know what you mean, Andy. I really do. I get it. But on the other hand, what you're about 10 years younger than me? 15? Something like that. So like your teenage years would have been in the 2000s to 2010s. 32. Yeah, so you're 14 years younger than me. So yeah, your teenage years would have been in the 2000s. Right? Am I doing math right? I'm not really thinking about it too hard. Cuz my teenage years were the 90s. And those are the ones that really shape you. And okay, yeah. So you grew up with the budding social media, from MySpace to Facebook. Whether you used it or not, others did. So you were influenced by people who were being influenced. So your mind was shaped by those around you. I mean, that's just how it works. Well, as a child, I spent most of my time alone. You know, that's the biggest thing that I think that was the biggest difference. I'm so self-confident in what I am and who I am because basically from the time I was 11, 12 to the time I was 18, I was really only responsible for me. My parents worked. I was a latchkey kid. I had chores on a list that I did every day. As soon as I was done with my chores, I went over to my buddies, helped them with theirs, blah, blah, blah. And then we'd go out and explore. I'd be back home in time to cook dinner for my parents so that they had a hot meal by the time they got home, which was 7, 8 o'clock at night. You know, and I was generally home from school at about 3:30. But I'm going to have to be right back. So just give me a second. And I'm back. Sorry, the restroom was really calling my name. 35, had a hybrid sort of childhood. Tech didn't really take off in my area until I was about a sophomore in high school, year or two before Obama's first term. Well, see, and no problem, Greenie. I totally understood you were at work. Glad to see you back. So see, I was dealing with computers since third grade. You know, PCs, stuff like that. You know, we got them in our school in third grade because I lived in a mining community which had money to spend on whatever. But it wasn't necessarily that good. So, you know, I did learn how to do some certain stuff. But the main thing is that, you know, me and my friends, once we were done with all of our chores at home, we'd grab our lawnmowers and we'd go do 2 or 3 houses before we had to come back. Or if we didn't have any jobs, lawn mowing. If we didn't have any jobs that day, we'd go out and explore the desert. Because this was when I was living in Northern Nevada. But we had to be home by certain times. I had to be home the latest because my parents wasn't getting... Right, wasn't really in homes, yeah. I mean... I had like tech stuff because my brother was older. Like his teenage years were literally the 80s. From like the mid 80s up. Because he was 8 years older than me. And no, actually, I didn't even have the streetlight curfew. My parents got off work at 7, so I wanted to be home in time to have dinner ready for them on the table because they didn't have time to cook for themselves. See, and that's the other thing. That was something I did of my own initiative. My parents never asked me to do that. I would also get up at about 3 a.m. to cook breakfast for my parents. Again, this was so I could actually get time with them. And that's the main thing that it took me a long time to realize. I was so hungry for their approval because they never gave it. That, I mean, I literally did all of this of my own volition. They never even had to ask me. I did it because I wanted attention. And I don't need these. Why did I put them back on? Sorry, my ears are getting really warm. It's one of the things I realized after my dad died. Was that I was so hungry for approval that even though I didn't like him, really, I loved him, he was my dad, but I didn't like him. I don't know if any of you get that, but it was so hard, so difficult, because everything I did was wrong. No matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. And then at some point, it just stopped mattering. I think I was 16, where I realized it was never going to happen. He is never going to approve of anything I freaking do. And that shift in my brain, and I liken this to, I actually started living my life. Mentally, I remember, oh, what's up, XO? Welcome in. I remember we moved down to Southern California and I had finally realized that nothing I ever did was ever going to please my dad. Nothing. And I remember sitting there on my first day of school. Not even lunch yet. I think I was just waiting for school to open. And I decided to do the worst thing I could possibly do to my dad. I did say hi to Rando too, didn't I? If I didn't, Rando, I'm sorry. Green Jean says, hello, GG, and to the rest of you from YouTube world. We're all doing pretty good. But when I was sitting there, I was sitting there and I realized that I was seeing my life through a window. This was a visualization that happened while I was sitting there waiting for school to open. I mean, I was getting ready to register myself for school. I had all my paperwork, I just had to take it to the office, but I had to wait for it to open because I had to be dropped off. And I realized that I had been observing my life. I hadn't been experiencing it. And in this mental imagery, I literally just turned that window into a door and walked through. And I started living my life for me, not for anyone else. I mean, even to this day, I don't live my life for my wife even, or even for my kids. I did what I thought was best. Ah, fun, Ninetails. Right. Well, especially for the generation your parents were, Andy. It's one of the reasons why I don't think parents, there should be this window for people to have kids. Once you hit 40, you really shouldn't have kids. And I'm not even talking to biological issues. I tolerated my dad in his later years because I was the only kid that talked to him. He had alienated my brother and sister, and they were both older. I was the youngest one that still talked to him. And what I did is once a week, I called him, made sure he was alive, and then I got the hell off the phone. My mom, I'll actually talk for 2 or 3 hours with on the phone to this day. I call her up once a week. We do our check-in, see how everything's going. And generally, we end up getting into a wild conversation because she's a lot better than she used to be. But I also realize I don't really care. Maybe that's a problem with me. But it's just like with my wife. I love my wife. She's very good to me, everything like that. But if suddenly she started treating me differently, I know I could walk away because obviously she either has been lying to me this whole time or she changed. Or I changed. So we're no longer compatible. That hasn't happened yet. I mean, honestly. Right. See, that their generation, that is exactly what was expected. That's what they were taught by everybody around them. And that's why I say that, a certain age spread, people shouldn't have kids beyond 40 because you won't be able to relate even the slightest bit to your kids. You figure that you're 40 years older than your child. That's a whole gulf of experiences that are totally different. It's why it pisses me off that we have the oldest Congress, Senate, and presidents we've ever had. Because they don't relate to the world. They literally are so disconnected from what's going on. I guarantee you that they have to have a minder to tell them that's AI, you shouldn't click on that, that's a scam. They have to be told this stuff actually happens, even though they sit on all these councils and whatever that regulates the internet. And yet they really don't even to this day understand it. They don't understand how it works. And this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that they think, we'll just make a digital ID and everybody has to have an ID and that makes perfect sense. No, it doesn't. You're literally just putting a repository for hackers to get all the information. You should really put government in control of that information. And yes, that sounds stupid when I'm talking about how backwards these guys are. But government's been holding our information for so long that they already have it. They don't need to get our ID. They already have our ID. These Discord, everybody else should just be contacting the government and going, oh, okay, yeah, they're old enough. Why do we have to have these third-party friggin' companies that are constantly getting hacked and leaking the information? Because the people in power are too frickin' stupid to understand the government already has it. So just have the companies ask the government. We don't need a third party. We already have it. I don't need to show you my ID. The government already knows who I am. You think that the government doesn't know who Neon Boss in real life really is, let alone my address? Right. You think they don't know who you are? You're not hiding behind a username. You think you are. The only reason why we're not catching criminals more often is because they can't be transparent with that information. I mean, look up Snowden. Look up everything that he told us that was going on. I knew about that long before. And Andy, my dad was the same way. He worked ungodly hours. I mean, like I said, I woke up at 3 a.m. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with Julian Assange. And yet we've ignored it. Like, people still give out their information to these companies without going, what? Like, look at all these data centers they're spotting all over the US, all over the world. Why? AI doesn't need that. I will tell you that right now. If it doesn't have enough mass adoption yet for it to be profitable, like, it's not even made its money back. It'll be 30, 40 years before it can make the money back that it's already spent. And now they're spending literally hundreds of millions to billions more. They're never going to make their money back on the AI with these data centers. Those data centers are something else entirely. As you should be, Green Jeans. As you should be. Anybody that has a good parent, be glad. Because parents can be so bad. And it's not even, and here's the thing, it's not even necessarily their fault. I'm going to be honest, it's not even necessarily their fault. They only know what they were taught. Again, they were shaped by the world around them. And we, right now, you know, kids being raised can pick and choose who shapes them. They're picking and choosing echo chambers. Their friends don't challenge them. They just try to emulate the blah, blah, blah person. You know, I mean, and that's why we're getting such horrific things happening. These children really don't understand that you're going to have to deal with people you don't like. That's just normal everyday life. You have to. You get a job. You can't like every single one of you can't block a coworker, no matter how much you might want to. Trust me, I've had plenty of them, and I'm sure plenty of my coworkers wanted to block me. You can't. You have to learn to live with them. You can't block your boss. Well, I mean, unless you just walk out. But then where's your next job? You know, I mean, what are you going to do? You know, I mean, we live in a world where we can control our world. 2020 made it even worse because most people don't even leave their house. Most people don't even remember what outside was like. And most companies don't want you to. I mean, McDonald's is making their architecture more and more hostile. You know, you don't want to sit in a McDonald's and meet your friends and talk because they have either shitty music, shitty places to sit, pardon my language. They just make it hostile to stick around. The very fact that cafes are doing that, you know, like Denny's, like Waffle House, you know, places where people are supposed to sit, chat, have fun, that they're making them uncomfortable to sit at. And then they complain why nobody's coming out to eat. They complain that DoorDash, Uber Eats is stealing 20 to 30% of their profit right off the top. Gee, I wonder why. Nobody wants to go sit in your friggin' stupid ass place because you took away the carpet, so it's so freaking loud, people can't have a conversation across the table, but you sure as hell can heal the people over there. Exactly. See, and that's what I mean right there, Brando, about social media is engineering us in the real world. Because your boss sure as hell can block you. You're fired because I don't like you. And most states have a policy that they don't even have to give you notice. You could be fired for any reason. And unless it's very specifically discriminatory, a boss can fire you because he doesn't like you, and that doesn't do anything wrong. But if he tells you, I don't like you because of your religion, I don't like you because of your sexual preference, I don't like you because of your skin color, that's discrimination. But if he just says, I don't like you, that's not discrimination. Just fire you, regardless of how well you do your job. Trust me, I know. Many times I have been fired because they just didn't like me. So I had 253 jobs from the time I was 18 to 26. No. Nine Tails, you're missing the point. Social media engineered them to treat you this way. Like you just said, I have to watch out for avenues of social capital to play off of. Social capital. That does relate to social media because they're engineering themselves to follow social media standards. Those social media standards are by whatever echo chambers they put themselves in. You missed that part of the conversation where I was talking about how social media is engineering us in the real world. We're afraid of being our authentic selves. That's really what I mean. And you think that AI being everywhere and Palantir and Flock teaming up and watching everything through your friggin' Ring doorbell camera because Amazon joined Palantir. Thanks, buddies. So on Twitch, Palantir's probably scraping this information too for us. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't have any proof of that at all, but it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me that YouTube has the same kind of engineering. I mean, one, it'd be stupid if Palantir and YouTube and, if they didn't talk about it. Thank you. Sorry, apparently, no matter how bad I felt earlier today, I'm really feeling my oats now. But no, I understand, Rando. How do I explain this simply in the little time I have left? So when we were kids, we were shaped by the kids in school. You had to deal with people you didn't like. So you had to measure them on different criteria. And I'm not even talking bullies. I'm not even talking like people you hated. Just people that you didn't gel with. You weren't friends with. It's not necessarily that you hated them or anything. You weren't part of the same cliques. It didn't matter. Well, now in the day and age of social media, we expect everybody to be our friend, even though, how many people have that many friends? Yes, Rando, I'm talking about how we're engineering social interactions. It doesn't have to be whether you're doing good or bad at your job. It's the social interaction. Right? But that's what I'm saying is that we're so used to engineered interactions because of social media, we're now training ourselves through behaviorism to engineer our actions in real life. That's what I mean, Nine Tails, not the rest of it. I mean, I get what you're saying. What I'm trying to say is that people are so used to their online life being their main life that IRL reactions and interactions don't feel as real, or they're engineering themselves to fall under certain parameters. They're not being authentic. They're not being who they are. I don't even know how else to explain that in a short time. But all I'm saying is that social media is doing social engineering that the government wished it could have done years ago, in the 50s, when it started the B.F. Skinner boxes called schools. We're doing behavior engineering through social media because we're curating our lives online, and we don't want people in real life to realize that it's not what we think it is, that it's not our life. I mean, through all the filters and everything. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying everybody does it, but I'm saying that the vast majority of people, between 60 and 70%, are so used to social media that they're now engineering their lives, even who their friends are and everything like that. I mean, think about how much division happened in families because whether or not people supported Trump or Biden. You used to have arguments over Thanksgiving dinner about this, and you didn't kick the person out. Politics wasn't such a divisive thing that you would literally carve people out of your life, for good or ill, that you would carve people out of your life just because of their political views. It's why it used to be, for polite company, people that you were just acquainted with. I mean, we call people friends way too easily anymore, too. People that you were acquainted with, you didn't talk politics or religion. Now it's all anybody talks about because the politics reaches into their fandoms. You can't talk video games, Doctor Who, Star Wars, Marvel without talking about politics. And the movie stars are the ones doing it, and the social media stars are the ones doing it. And it's getting us all heated up about everything. I mean, I've been guilty, and I'm trying to stop, talking so much about one way or the other about politics, but more just saying, stand for your beliefs, whatever they may be. I don't need to know what your beliefs are. I don't really care. Yeah, seeps into everything. And and we don't stop it. We don't stop ourselves because we have been socially engineered to talk about it. No, you don't. You don't have to care. One, I think the world would be better if people stopped caring so much about politics right now. Because all of these Congress senators are getting into it because they're friggin' celebrities now. And I don't mean just because Trump was on TV. I'm talking about, who Nancy Pelosi is. You know the name. I can't think of many of them. AOC. They're celebrities. That's why they're getting into it, because of the power, the clout. I couldn't tell you 20 years ago, other than probably it was about the same people that are in it now, but 20 years ago, who a congressman or senator was. Other than a few key names. Other than that, I really, I couldn't tell you, but I'm sure that if you pointed a gun to my head, I could probably name off 15 to 20. We shouldn't. It shouldn't matter. Politics isn't that important. It's just the way it runs the country. Yeah, but it doesn't really affect you. You should care about the little things where it does affect you. Not these big things that have nothing to do with your life. The war in Iran, you should only care about where it affects your pocketbook when it comes to oil. Our relationship with Israel, for good or ill, should only affect you by the way it affects you. I move around. I look around. It's a security thing. I worked security for way too long that I always look around. I always watch my back. it, don't worry about it. I am good. I'm just naturally paranoid. Comes from also having a brother, from the time I grew up, teasing me and popping out of unexpected places. So, I'm always looking around. But yeah, I mean, if you see me gesture and talk, I'm a visual person sometimes. So my brain, I'm imagining what I'm talking about. Like when I point out over there, I'm talking about, I'm pointing at what I'm talking about in my head. It's just how I work. And, I'm not trying to accuse anybody of any of this. If you feel called out, maybe you should think about why you feel called out. And I'm not saying anybody feels right. It's just, when I describe to my wife how I remember things, see, Andy, I also, I said that I was an auditory, memory, but I also have a visual memory. So the weird thing is that most of my memories are in third person. I really don't know what that means about me. I really don't care. And what I mean by third person is that if I think back to a memory, my camera view is way over here, back and over my shoulder. Like I'm literally looking at the back of my head, but I can also swing it around in a 3-dimensional. If I really sit down and think about it, I could tell you probably some of the posters on the walls of my classroom. Yes, 360 view vibes. Like, yes. Only not in real time. But I think it's partially why I can do that is because I am security, so I'm constantly looking around. So I have a rough estimate. I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect, like photographic, but I have a rough estimate of what's going on. It's actually how I find stuff that I lose. Like I'll even review my memories if the wife has lost something. And first when we got together, she's like, help me look. And I'm like, I'm just standing in the middle of the room. And she's like, help me look. And I'm like, I am. Like, what are you doing? I'm thinking. And I will invariably walk over to some section of the house and find what she lost. Because I was watching where she went. Unconsciously. And it really freaks some people out. Like I'll meet people that I went to school with in grade school, which is a fuzzy time in my memory. Like I barely remember anything, but out of that fog, I'll bring up a name. I'll know who that person is. I mean, shoot, when I met my wife, which happened to be for the second time or third time in my life, she used to be a coworker of one of my girlfriends in high school. And I used to go and pick up my girlfriend from work. And I met her. She introduced me to her. Okay, no big deal. She took us to, because she, who became my wife, took us to her senior party for her school. And which was fine. It was fun. But we didn't hang out with her. We just met her at the doors, got the tickets, went in. And then when I'm sitting in Denny's 3 years later, I see her walk in. And I'm like, hey, aren't you? And I give her full name, middle and name and all. And she's like, yeah. It's like, oh, I remember you. You were a coworker of one of, my ex-girlfriend, this person. And she just, well, and that's how, I really sat down and got to know my wife and where we ended up dating. Was because I remembered things out of the fog. Like I hadn't probably never thought about her other than like marked this person as, you know, that's somebody someday maybe I'll get to know. For some reason, my brain caught. But that was it. I mean, shoot, the first time I met her, when my girlfriend introduced me to who would become my wife, she was sitting there with a pair of pliers pulling the snow studs out of her snow tires. Because she wasn't supposed to be driving with them. And she didn't have the money to afford to get them, you know, pulled or swap tires because she didn't have another set of tires. So she was just sitting there with a pair of pliers pulling them so she didn't get pulled over. Yeah. Anyway, I actually had a lot of fun tonight. Yes, like RDJ Sherlock Mind Vault. Green Jeans, sorry, I missed that you said something because I didn't realize my microphone was blocking YouTube. But I hope you guys had fun. I know I've been yapping, 15, 20 minutes long. Yes. Those are good references. Those are actually pretty good. But I learned that I was different when I was reading a biography of Tesla, and that was how he did things. Not trying to compare myself to Tesla. But I hope you all have a good night. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Thursday, what was I playing? Oh yeah, I was going to finish the hotel. That is an entire possibility. Yes, Tesla was legit. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to compare myself to Tesla, but when they described how he worked in his mind to prototype his machines, I'm like, oh, hey, I remember, or no, I was watching a documentary, not reading his biography. That came later. I said to my wife, oh yeah, that's how I remember things. It's always in third person. And she's like, what? We've been married like 5-6 years at this point. And that's how she's like, that's why you always stand in the middle of the room when I ask you to help me find something, is because that's what you're doing. You're helping me find it. Right. Well, and I don't know, maybe it is a remote viewing thing. I don't think too much about it. Oh yeah, I mean, after 5 years, we've been together 25 years. This August will be the 26th year anniversary of our first date. No. 28th. Because we were dated for 2 years before we married. So we've been together for 28 years dating, 20, and this, yeah. I mean, not necessarily fresh out of high school, but pretty close. We barely knew each other in high school. Like, literally, it was towards the senior year. Well, my girlfriend and her senior year, because they were both a year ahead of me in school, even though I was their age. I got held back real early on when I was in first grade because my best friend was in kindergarten. So I waited around a year. I literally intentionally got held back. That's a story for another day. Anyway, love you all. Hope to see you tomorrow. We're going to be playing some Creepy Shift, Joe's Hotel. I think we might finish that tomorrow. Just as Green Jeans gets into the Twitch chat. Oh, well, I hope you had fun. Y'all have a good night. And so I hope to see you tomorrow.